This is Art Television.
ඒත් නෑනේ පොළගාවේ නම් තිබුණලු
මම ගියා එහෙත් ඉවරයි
කාර් එකයි කෝටි ගොඩයි ටිකට් එකයි දිනුම් දෙකයි සම්පත ලග්න වර්ම මාසිකම එකයි
පරක්කු වෙලා වාසනාව නැති කරගන්න එපා
ජාතික ලොතරැයි මණ්ඩලය
Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by
බාධා නැති සීමා නැති SLT Mobitel Home 4G දැන් පුළුල් ආවරණයක් සමග
IWS Aviation.
Hello. දැන් ඔයා හිතන්නේ හැමදේම වෙනස් වුණේ කොහොමද කියලානේ? උත්තරේ මගේ ළඟ තියෙනවා. අපි හැදුනේ එකම සබැඳියාවක බැඳීමෙන්. හැමදේම හොඳ වුණේ සබැඳියාවේ හැදීමෙන්. අපි මෙතනට ආවේම එකම එක සබැඳියාවක රැඳීමෙන්. ගෙදරට වැඩකට ගමනට එකම එක සබැඳියාවක බැඳෙන මුළු මහත් රටකට. Good morning sir. How can I help?
SLT Mobitel. එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
Good evening and a warm welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Shahin Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. EDB seeks the ways and means to expand the export opportunities to Australia. Both exports and imports were significantly higher in April 2021 compared to April 2020, CBSL says. News in detail. A webinar was held to reduce the knowledge gap by educating the exporters about the opportunities in the Australian market and how to access it correctly. Sri Lankan Consul General in Australia, Kapila Fonseca, said that even though Sri Lanka has had a growth in exports to Australia in the recent years, when compared with other Southeast Asian countries, Sri Lanka's merchandise exports volume still remains low.
Sri Lanka's social and cultural connections with Australia dates back to centuries. Currently, Australia is one of the few places where a large number of Sri Lankans live outside of Sri Lanka. In some places in Australia, you don't even feel that you are thousands of miles away from your home. There is such a strong presence of Sri Lankanness, particularly in places like Melbourne, where I live. An abundance of Sri Lankan, authentic Sri Lankan cuisine, and many Sri Lankan temples, etc. However, when it comes to our bilateral trade, it's a different picture. Of course, we are long-standing trading partners. Of course, Sri Lanka's exports to Australia have seen a steady growth in the recent years, but our trade volumes are very low. By 2019, Australia was Sri Lanka's 13th export market, but with just 1.6% of Sri Lanka's total exports. When you compare with exports to Australia by other countries, again, our export volumes to Australia are in the lower ranks.
Sri Lankan Consul General in Australia, Kapila Fonseca, asserted lack of knowledge on the export opportunities to Australia among Sri Lankan exporters is a matter to concern and should be addressed soon. He also said that almost all the countries in the region engage in exporting numerous products to Australia.
Clearly, we have not yet reached our potential. There are endless opportunities and immense untapped potential for growth. And I don't have to emphasize more of the importance of export growth in the economic growth of a country. I believe that exports should be one of our major pillars in the growth of Sri Lanka's economy. There may be many reasons for our exports with Australia not growing fast enough. One particular reason that we are surely aware is the information and knowledge gap. Lack of knowledge about the Australian market and lack of awareness of the regulations that govern the Australian market, etc. This webinar is a result of that awareness, our awareness of the lack of awareness. Our effort here is to open the doors to know the Australian market closely and correctly from the experts themselves in order to be a successful exporter to Australia.
Central Bank today announced that Sri Lanka's external sector exhibited a mixed performance in April 2021. The deficit, the trade account, widened for the second consecutive month in April 2021 compared to a year earlier, while earnings from the tourism sector remained subdued. Notably, both exports and imports were significantly higher in April 2021 compared to April 2020, although both were lower compared to March 2021. However, workers' remittances continued its momentum, recording a significant growth in April 2021. Meanwhile, the financial account of the balance of payments strengthened during the month with the receipt of proceeds of the syndicated loan facility from the China Development Bank. The Sri Lankan rupee remained broadly stable throughout the month amid some volatility observed in mid-April. The deficit in the trade account widened for the second consecutive month in April 2021 to $889 million compared to the deficit of $840 million recorded in April 2020 and $832 million in March 2021. Both exports and imports were significantly higher in April 2021 compared to the lockdown period in April 2020, although both were lower compared to March 2021. Meanwhile, the cumulative deficit in the trade account during January-April 2021 widened to $2,948 million from $2,693 million recorded over the same period in 2020. In terms of trade, it is the ratio of the price of exports to the price of imports deteriorated by 5.5% in April 2021 as the increase in import prices were higher than the increase of export prices compared to April 2020. Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break.
Unlimited නම් මෙතින් SLT Mobitel Unlimited Internet. හැමෝටම ෆිට වෙන හෝම් සහ මොබයිල් ඉන්ටර්නෙට් පැකේජ් පෙළක්. කුරු වෙන්න අපේ Unlimited Internet වලට. SLT Mobitel එකම එක සැබඳියාව.
ඒත් නෑනේ. පොළගාවේ නම් තිබුණලු.
මම ගියා. එහෙත් ඉවරයි.
කාර් එකයි කෝටි ගොඩයි ටිකට් එකයි දිනුම් දෙකයි සම්පත ලග්නවර්ම මාසිකම එකයි.
පරක්කු වෙලා වාසනාව නැති කරගන්න එපා.
ජාතික ලොතරැයි මණ්ඩලය.
SLT Mobitel Home Broadband data balance එක බලා ගන්න, extra GB මිලදී ගන්න, දුරකථන දෝෂ වාර්තා කරන්න දැන් හරිම ලේසි. My SLT app එක භාවිතා කරන්න නැත්නම් 01121212 SLT Mobitel ස්වයංක්‍රීය සේවාවට පිවිසෙන්න.
Welcome back after the break. Compensation, salary dues and other redress to the family members of deceased Sri Lankan migrant workers overseas were settled at a function took place at the Foreign Ministry premises yesterday. Addressing the gathering, Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said that a number of measures have been taken to ensure the safety and welfare of Sri Lankans working abroad. The Consular Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry has organised a function to hand over letters of compensation of the deceased Sri Lankan workers abroad to their respective family members at the ministry premises. The event took place in line with the International Domestic Workers' Day as well as the International Day of Family Remittances held on yesterday. During the ceremony, Minister Gunawardena said that a number of welfare and safety measures have been taken by the ministry on behalf of the Sri Lankans working abroad. Further, addressing the families of the deceased, Minister Gunawardena also said that although the loss of a person's life is irreparable, compensation payments on behalf of the deceased workers would bring some kind of relief to the affected family members. The Consular Affairs Division of the Foreign Ministry was able to secure the said compensation, salary dues and other redress with the assistance of the Sri Lanka missions in Middle Eastern countries. These payments were a result of initiatives and constant follow-up action pursued by the relevant Sri Lankan missions liaising with the respective authorities of the specific country. Foreign Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, together with Foreign Secretary Admiral Professor Jayannath Kolumbage, Director General of Consular Affairs Division, Vishwanath Aponsu, Chief of Mission of the International Organization for Migration, Sarat Dash, and Country Director of International Labour Organization, Simran Singh, handed over the letters to compensation amounting to 30 million Sri Lankan rupees to the family members of deceased migrant workers overseas, received from their respective employers abroad through Sri Lanka Mission Abroad. An agreement extending $100 million line of credit to Sri Lanka for projects in the solar energy sector signed between the government of Sri Lanka and the Export-Import Bank of India. The agreement was signed yesterday by the High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Gopal Bagle, and the Secretary to the Treasury, S.R. Artikala, in the presence of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat. The $100 million LOC will help finance various projects in the solar energy sector in Sri Lanka, including those announced during the founding conference of the International Solar Alliance held in March 2018, such as rooftop solar photovoltaic system for households and government buildings. Accordingly, India becomes the first country to partner with Sri Lanka in fulfilling the plan of ensuring that 70% of Sri Lanka's national power requirements are fulfilled by renewable energy sources by 2030. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and High Commissioner of India discussed the striking similarity in the national objectives outlined by India and Sri Lanka in connection with solar energy. Over the past 7 years, solar power generation in India has increased significantly to reach 34.6 gigawatts in 2021 from about 2.6 gigawatts in March 2014. Indian High Commission in Colombo in a statement said that strengthening the collaboration in this vital sector will help enhance the overall energy partnership between the two countries and contribute towards our global efforts to tackle climate change and reduce emissions. Sri Lanka's one of the well-known private healthcare provider, Hemas Hospitals, launches the Divara Dirisavi mega donation drive to support the fishing community. Launching the program, Hemas officials said that the move will empower the fishing community along the western coast of the country, whose livelihoods were gravely impacted by the marine destruction caused by the Express Pole ship disaster. Under Divara Dirisavi, Hemas Hospitals donated dry ration packs to 818 families in the Wattala fishing community who have now lost their sole source of income for survival. The fisher community was undergoing extreme distress due to the implications caused by COVID-19 pandemic, together with the fishing ban imposed due to the Express Pole disaster. Hemas Hospitals and Laboratories Managing Director and President Association of Private Hospitals and Nursing Homes, Dr. Lakit Pires, said that Divara Dirisavi was founded upon the ethos that we care for, uplift and empower Sri Lanka's fishing community struggling to make ends meet due to the mass implications and destruction caused to our marine resources with the Express Pole disaster. He also added that as responsible healthcare leader, they would continue to invest their resources and take swift action in supporting this community who adds so much to our economy as they transition through this deeply difficult, critical time. The donation program was coordinated with the support of Reverend Father Ajit Kamal, parish priest of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in Palliyavatta. Stay tuned for stock updates.
හලෝ දැන් ඔයා හිතන්නේ හැමදේම වෙනස් වුණේ කොහොමද කියලානේ? උත්තරේ මගේ ළඟ තියෙනවා. අපි හැදුනේ එකම සබැඳියාවක බැඳීමෙන්. හැමදේම හොඳ වුණේ සබැඳියාවේ හැදීමෙන්. අපි මෙතනට ආවේම එකම එක සබැඳියාවක රැඳීමෙන්. ගෙදරට වැඩකට ගමනට එකම එක සබැඳියාවක බැඳෙන මුළු මහත් රටකට. Good morning sir, how can I help?
SLT Mobitel එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
SLT Mobitel Home Broadband data balance එක බලා ගන්න, extra GB මිලදී ගන්න, දුරකථන දෝෂ වාර්තා කරන්න දැන් හරිම ලේසි. My SLT app එක භාවිතා කරන්න නැත්නම් 01121212 SLT Mobitel ස්වයංක්‍රීය සේවාවට පිවිසෙන්න.
ඒත් නෑනේ. පොළගාවේ නම් තිබුණලු.
මම ගියා. එහෙත් ඉවරයි.
කාර් එකයි කෝටි ගොඩයි ටිකට් එකයි දිනුම් දෙකයි සම්පත ලග්නවර්ම මාසිකම එකයි.
පරක් වෙලා වාසනාව නැති කරගන්න එපා.
ජාතික ලොතරැයි මණ්ඩලය.
දැන් සියලුම SLT මොබිටෙල් සේවාවන් වලට My SLT app හරහා එකවර පිවිසීමේ හැකියාව.
අන්ලිමිටඩ් නම් ඉතින් SLT මොබිටෙල් අන්ලිමිටඩ් ඉන්ටර්නෙට්. හැමෝටම ෆිට වෙන හෝම් සහ මොබයිල් ඉන්ටර්නෙට් පැකේජ් පෙළක්. කුරු වෙන්න අපේ අන්ලිමිටඩ් ඉන්ටර්නෙට් වලට. SLT මොබිටෙල් එකම එක සබැඳියාව.
Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a positive note today. The all-share price index gained by 17.81 points to close at 7,659, and the S&P SL20 gained by 6.92 points to close at 3,079.59. The turnover was almost 4 billion rupees and almost 165 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.
Hello. දැන් ඔයා හිතන්නේ හැමදේම වෙනස් වුණේ කොහොමද කියලානේ? උත්තරේ මගේ ළඟ තියෙනවා. අපි හැදුනේ එකම සබැඳියාවක බැඳීමෙන්. හැමදේම හොඳ වුණේ සබැඳියාවේ හැදීමෙන්. අපි මෙතනට ආවේම එකම එක සබැඳියාව